morning, everyone. I can't believe it's only Wednesday.
It's still January. How about that one?
I just feel maybe it's because we all worked through the weekend, but I legitimately woke up this morning. I was like, oh, Friday. No, definitely not. So let's start with one fun thing to get ourselves pumped up.
I know exactly where you're going with this, Rachel. You're a little pissed, aren't you?
I don't think you know where I'm going with this, Sean.
Well, I do. You're pissed about Belichick.
Where do you think I'm going with this?
You're getting pissed about Belichick, right?
Oh, is this a football thing? Or basketball? Do they even play basketball in January? I don't know.
No, they went, the football guys threw the end zone. The ball went through the hoop a few times before the touchdowns.
Actually, you know what, Rachel?
Okay.
This ties to politics. The Hall of Fame voting committee got a little petty over Spygate and Deflategate and decided to make Bill Belichick pay and ended up humiliating themselves in the process. So
that's just...
Some of you in the comments have given me crap saying I'm anti-sport. It's not that I'm anti-sport. It's just that I grew up in a ballet studio, literally 40 hours a week, classical trained ballerina. So I know nothing about them because that's where my focus was.
I'm also a dancer.
Yes. So Sean can appreciate the hard work that goes into making something look effortless.
I like to dance. I just can't dance.
We'll work on that.
All right. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. I thought you were going to go off on Belichick.
No. So the one fun thing, Kid Rock is apparently in town and will testify before the Senate Commerce Committee today about ticket sales. My question for you, Sean, is does he go see his pal at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and say, 100%. Hey?
I mean, is that even a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want me to text him?
Yeah.
Wait, who are you going to text? The president or Kid Rock? Or both?
Bob, Kid Rock.
There you go. Wow.
Now that would be a group text chat. Trump, Kid Rock, and Sean. There you go.
That sounds like
heard you are in town.
There you go. Well, just save it. Let's see if we get a response. Continue.
Awesome. Well, if he responds, you have to bring it up on the show because that's quite amazing. Okay. So today on the show, we're going to talk about this incredible blame game that is happening right now in the administration, in full swing after the administration totally bungled their response to Alex Preddy's death over the weekend. You have Kristi Noem essentially blaming Stephen Miller blaming DHS now blaming CBP. And it's totally,
I mean, I think the best part of it is the leaking, because they both, Noem and a certain staffer around her and Miller are very close to a lot of journalists. And the leaking behind the scenes to try to frame the other is off the charts, which I love. I mean, it's fantastic, but
this is what DC journalists kind of live for, honestly.
I've always said, and this is the interesting thing because you're here, Rachel. Like, to me, who you leak to, what you say, and how you do it are the massive tells, right? Sometimes people use a phrase that they use all the time.
Bingo.
And it was just so obvious what was going on yesterday. I mean, the idea of leaking to Mark Caputo, very well-respected journalist.
Correct.
We love Mark.
Trump world.
We love Mark.
It was so blatant who it was.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that.
No names.
Well, no, we can say who people are honestly saying who they believe it is. Because people in the orbit are pissed about that story, by the way. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But okay, so we'll talk about the story.
I'm joking. There's so many of them.
Yes.
Belichick thing.
Yeah. We'll talk about what's going on with Minnesota. Actually, the president just put up a Truth Social. We won't put it up right now, but basically responding to Mayor Fry saying that they don't participate in getting illegal immigrants out of their state. So the president responds to that this morning. We'll talk about the shutdown with Capitol Hill sweating. We got 2.5 more days to go until the government shuts down. We'll talk about the president's affordability afterthought. I mean, clearly they're trying to make this a part of the headlines this week. Yesterday, he was in Iowa talking about the economy. Today, he's pivoting back with the Trump account, which we'll get to in the daybook here in a minute. Can they keep the focus on this? How do they try to keep the focus on this? And then we have a bit of a midterm update that includes a notable setback for Democrats on the redistricting. So we'll get there too. Just a reminder, follow us on YouTube. at the DC Huddle. Go and subscribe. And better yet, tell someone else that you know to subscribe, that you love the show and that we're awesome and that they should subscribe too. So we're trying to get our numbers up there. Okay, let's jump in the daybook. So on Capitol Hill, the big event this morning is Marco Rubio's back in his old stomping grounds. He'll be testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It's funny because he's been, for a lot of Democrats, he's been their most beloved or favorite cabinet secretary, but he is clearly in hot water after the whole thing with Maduro, Venezuela, the boat strikes, the whole thing with Greenland. Yeah. So this will be an interesting hearing. Dan or Sean, anything in particular you're watching for on that?
I'm watching Republican unity on Greenland. I think on Venezuela, they'll stick together, but I'm going to be very curious where Republicans all are on Greenland.
I'm actually looking for everything but that. I think that sometimes the news is in the less obvious places. So do they go at them with any kind of security commitments on Ukraine, on Iran strikes? So I think the obvious is going to be Greenland and Maduro. That's where he's going to be buttoned up. He'll have been well thought through his responses. But I think, not that he won't in the others, to be clear. I'm just saying, like, to me, where sometimes the news is where people least expect it. So that's my 2 cents.
Where you're not as prepped as well from staff.
Not even just as prepped, but I think that, like, somebody comes at you and you're like, you're so in the moment on the top issues that you haven't thought of the 5 small ones.
Yeah. And just to set the stage, Chris Van Hollen, Democrat, obviously in Maryland, said of Rubio ahead of the hearing, the Rubio MAGA lobotomy is complete. So that just gives you an idea of where Democrats are going to go in this hearing. A couple of other things they're going to be talking about: what happens to the Venezuela oil and when are they going to do elections in Venezuela. Okay, 11 a.m.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So the 11 a.m., the president's going to be delivering remarks on these Trump accounts. This is the $1,000 cash investments for newborns that the president championed earlier this year. This is a big event. It's not just the president, it's cabinet secretaries. Nicki Minaj apparently is also going. Sean, did you say that you're going to be going to this?
I will. I'm doing a little fireside chat with Nicki Minaj, and
no, you're not.
No, I am going, but yes, I will be going to that.
Maybe the party is Nicki Minaj, Kid Rock, and you. And us.
By the way, the last time I was in the White House with Kid Rock, let's just say if you Google, there's some interesting photos.
Oh, is that the one with Sarah Palin and Kid Rock? And who was the third person in that photo? Kid Rock.
Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent.
Yeah, and Ted Nugent. Yes.
Tell me 3 people I didn't expect to be having dinner with in the White House: Ted Nugent, Sarah Palin, and Kid Rock.
And as Goose said in Top Gun, they were keeping up foreign relations with Hillary Clinton.
I've been wondering when Nicki Minaj was going to head to the White House and be called in. I mean, she's been such a vocal supporter recently. So that'll be interesting to see the two of them, if they talk in public together, would be wow. Okay, 2:20. Let's see. This afternoon, the Fed is expected to announce that they're going to be stopping interest rate cuts. This will be the first time since September. But the big thing people are watching is going to be Jerome Powell's press conference that he's going to be giving later this afternoon.
They'll announce it too. He'll speak at 2:30.
Right. 2:30.
And then Trump's going to speak.
He'll be watching. He certainly will be watching.
Yes.
I was going to say 3 p.m. He greets auto workers in the Oval Office. I'm not sure if that's open or closed press, but I'm sure if he saw something that Powell said and he wants to respond, he'll just call in the pool. And then at 5 o'clock, he has a policy meeting. Wild card this week that we wanted to flag: Epstein files. Should we say you saw it or heard it first here? Maybe some more trickling out.
There are 3 individuals that I think people that are at least speculated to be in them. Number 1 is Bill Gates. There's apparently a massive dump of Bill Gates information coming that is not flattering. Number 2 is I heard there's some Elon stuff, and 3 is some potential Howard Lutnick information. Now, keep in mind, when you say this, you got 1.5 million documents that come out. There's a lot of somebody might have emailed with somebody might have been on a roster or something. So doesn't mean anything until we see what it is. But I was told in particular the Gates stuff is just not. I mean, it's like an avalanche of bad. And nothing else in the other two. So just being named in them sometimes I think is sensational, but it doesn't, considering the circles that he was running, and Dan's referenced this before, the guy was raising money for a lot of causes and held parties. So just being there does not implicate any wrongdoing, but it will be interesting to see what this next iteration does. And so I'm anytime between now and Friday.
And I would say, I think one of the more underreported stories, because there's just so much news, is the raging inferno within the House Democratic Caucus about the Clintons. And if that vote comes up on the House floor, the Clintons are not happy, and they are working it. It's a fascinating fight.
We mentioned last week that Hakeem Jeffries whipped against it. Pelosi, according to reports, literally chastised her caucus and went after these people by name.
Yep.
Talking about how disrespectful it was. Clearly this is not the same Nancy Pelosi. No one seems to really care.
No, she's not in power anymore. So
the Clintons are livid.
Yeah. I thought we were thinking they'd cut a deal by the end of.
I still think they will, because here's the problem. Republicans have a problem too, which is if you don't follow through, you're a wuss. And so Republicans can't just go, oh, we subpoenaed them and they said no. There's enough rage on the right that will come back to bite our own side if we do nothing. So if there's not a follow through on this, it's almost probably worse to be a Republican that didn't do anything than a Democrat that didn't back Clinton.
They're going to do something. They're absolutely going to. I mean, it's too easy.
Well, again, what's the it? Is it hold them in contempt in the House? But if you don't file a DOJ referral.
Right. There's two kinds of contempt. There's like a civil contempt, which is more like a statement and maybe you go to court. And then there's criminal contempt, which is you send a referral to DOJ and say, take it up. This is a good question for the president. I'm really curious what he thinks about this, given that he doesn't.
Actually, that's a great question for the president, because his own aides, obviously Peter Navarro in particular, went to jail. He has seen the lawfare up hand. So I think I will write that one down.
Well, and then there's the added part.
You to it. That's
then there's the added part that he will be an ex-president in a few years, and this issue may still be out there. So
there you go.
Or not just this one, Dan, but a myriad of issues, right? So you suddenly go, you
go from not being able to be, prosecuted as sitting president to an ex-president who might be held in contempt.
All right, guys, let's move to a word from our sponsors. Let's talk about Cozy Earth. Today, I have props. Look at this. Okay, it looks beautiful, but it smells even better. Hold on, I have the flavor. This is Cozy Earth's candle, which you can buy online. Got it this weekend. It's grapefruit, sandalwood, and crisp water. Definitely one of the best smelling candles I've ever had. Used it yesterday as I was making dinner, which dinner for me was actually ramen noodles. Oh, really not good, but it smells fantastic. I also am enjoying my bubble cuddle blanket. Super soft, super warm. I would love to make it into a vest. Just a tip for Cozy Earth. Maybe someday they do clothing and I get a new fur bubble cuddle vest. Anyway, so right now, if you go to CozyEarth.com, they're doing a big sale on pajamas. Dan, he has them. He loves them. I haven't tried them yet, but certainly intend to. Buy one, get one. Sale runs from January 25th through the February 8th. And fun fact, their pajamas actually sold out over the holidays. So they're just that good. They are back now. Get them before they're gone. Go to CozyEarth.com and use my code Huddle BOGO, HUDDLEBOGO, no spaces, for pajamas, and get yourself a pair or someone you love for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's the easiest gift I've ever heard of. You cannot go wrong. I did that for Christmas, big winner. So you get a twofer. You buy one, you get one free. So this is like the easiest Valentine's Day gift ever.
And I'm going to blow this out before I burn myself during the show. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about news of day. Kristi Noem versus Stephen Miller. Again, finger pointing, just incredible. Let me just sort of take you through what happened yesterday. So first, a story comes out in Axios saying that Kristi Noem, who, by the way, you all know is getting the bulk of the blame for what happened this weekend in terms of the administration bungling their response and saying Freddie was a domestic terrorist, which videos show clearly he was not there to attack cops. a story comes out in Axios, Mark Caputo, well-respected reporter, saying that she is blaming Stephen Miller, deputy chief of staff in the White House. Everybody knows who he is, immigration hawk, saying he basically told her to say this. This sets off a firestorm behind the scenes. People are pissed. Where did the story come from? And I could tell you, speaking to, a bunch of people close to the inner circle, a lot of people are speculating that it came from one of her top aides, Corey Lewandowski. This is someone she's been very close with, and who is not well liked in the inner circle. In fact, a lot of people in the White House just want him to go away, but he's her closest aide at DHS. And so a lot of people are upset and want to know, where this came from and was it him? A few hours later, Miller himself goes on record with Mark Caputo to defend himself.
Miller calls Caputo. He picked up the phone and proactively called Mark.
Yes, and says, it basically sets the record straight, saying that he was going off what he was told from Customs and Border Protection, CBP. He says that he was basically given certain information. That is why he tweeted. I can confirm, I've heard as well from other people close to and following the story, that he was told something very different than what later showed in these videos. And so he tweets, and he goes further than that and says, not only, did I get information from CBP that, I based this directive off of, but it turns out that they might have done something wrong procedurally. Let's just start with Sean, this sort of leaking on each other, what's going on. It is pretty rare to see the Trump administration doing this in Trump 2.0. I know it happened all the time in Trump 1.0. What do you make of it, and where do you think this is going?
Yeah, so a couple of things. First, let me go the opposite, which is, I think this is there's a fog of war is real, not just in war, but in all of these type of situations. You don't put out statements like this for a reason that quickly. And you certainly don't just, skip spots. So this should have been vetted first, and coordinated. That's number one. The idea that the White House was the first, like you would normally go, what do you guys have? Can you confirm this? Yes. I mean, there's a reason that the briefings happen the way they do up. Number two is I would sort of take exception of this. This is the administration writ large, but this is Corey. This is not the White House or the administration. This is an isolated incident because this is his MO. I mean, Corey is for all of, whatever you want to say about him, the guy isn't a backstabber. He's just a stabber. Like he will go at you everywhere, front, back, side. And when he feels threatened, he's going to come at you. And they wanted to expose, when Nome was under attack, they wanted to make it clear it wasn't our call.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I would say this: if there's a pecking order in the White House, right? It's the president and the first lady, the kids, the in-laws. So like Jared, right there, and then Stephen's not that far down the chair. So trying to take on Stephen Miller, not a smart idea if you're them, and thinking somehow this was a smart thing. And like I said at the outset, this was so blatant as far as where it was coming from. Everybody knew it. And now it's out in the open.
Yeah. I just I don't see him winning a fight against Stephen Miller, not only because of Stephen Miller's status in the White House, very well regarded by the president, but also the fact that, like I said, nobody in the White House likes Corey Lewandowski. I mean, there's a history here, right? Like during the 2024 campaign, he reaches out, suggests he wants to work for the president's campaign. The president gives him a job. Within a couple of weeks, he's trying to elbow out Susie Wiles, Chris LaCivita. They get upset and sort of sideline him, and he's sort of sidelined for a while. I mean, he doesn't play well with others.
No, and he hasn't for 10 years.
That is the view of many people in the White House and in the
I would say it's probably the view of every person in the White House.
But here's the challenge, though. Finish that statement. But Corey remains in the circle
for now.
That's the thing. So all these people hate him. All these people have tried to run him out. But he, like a cat with 9 lives, Trump still kind of will have him into the Oval Office on Monday night with Kristi Noem to kind of sit around for 2 hours and kibitz. Look, I just...
Well, it's because they were in trouble, though, right?
But I mean, still, it's like, come on in, right? But the three things, first, you can't underscore enough what Sean said first, which is, so many things in the Trump era, we just kind of say, well, it's Trump. The fact that it is now pretty much standard in this White House that you kind of go to social media first and then kind of try to gather your facts afterwards and hope that they fit the narrative that you go back to Charlie Kirk, everything. Like Kash Patel, more times than we can count, has come out and made statements that like are kind of true or not true. And then like he presses his team for facts. So one, they got caught with their pants down again because of cell phone cameras, but this was not the first time that DHS and Kash Patel pulled this crap. The second is, look, sometimes when an individual tries to win, the team loses. And I just, what they are doing by having this food fight is they are feeding Democrats confidence, because Democrats look and say, we have them so badly by the you-know-what. Stephen Miller is having to come out and basically apologize. He's not doing it directly, but he is indirectly. So the longer they keep this fight up of Corey versus Miller, the more Democrats say our leverage is growing by the minute.
It's not an apology though. It's more of an explanation. I mean,
that's being charitable, but coming out and saying one.
Now we're seeing multiple problems here. It's not just what happened to Alex Preddy. It's this notion that people in CBP lied to the White House or might have said something to them that was completely
and that they're out of control. That literally he's saying they may not have followed procedures. Hello.
That's the other piece of it here.
Well,
yes.
Congress would love Democrats would love to know those procedures, because this is what they can't get anyone to testify about and anyone to open the kimono. Again, you're feeding our confidence by what you're saying, which is great.
Let's take a look at, speaking of throwing people under the bus, let's take a look at what the president said to Fox News about Greg Bovino yesterday. The CBP, what was his title? Commander at large. Who is no longer commander at large. Let's bring that up.
Commander Bovino is supposedly leaving Minneapolis along with some CBP agents. Is this a pullback?
I don't think it's a pullback. It's a little bit of a change. Everybody in this room that has a business, you make little changes. Bovino is very good, but he's a pretty out there kind of a guy. And in some cases, that's good. Maybe it wasn't good here.
Maybe it wasn't good here. I talked about this yesterday.
Know him, Sean.
You get a lot,
like who? Who is this?
But I said this yesterday. The one of the beauties of working for Trump is he gives you a very long leash to do your job. The downside for working for Trump is he gives you a very long leash to do your job. And therefore, when you go too far, and remember this doesn't get a lot of notion, but again, we talk about information flow and all this kind of stuff. This is an ICE operation, right? Greg Bovino is CBP. They're there in support of ICE. Mm-hmm. And here you have the commander at large of CBP taking charge of an ICE operation, trying to look out for, the whole thing just, and I get the president's frustration because he got too close to the sun. This wasn't his operation to run, but he knew he had the backing of the secretary, and I think he felt empowered. And as the president said, maybe not in this situation. He got a little too out over his skis.
Yeah, no, I was surprised he acknowledged, knew him. Like, what is the greatest insult the president gives someone? Is like, who? I don't know who that is.
No, he said he's doing a great job. And but I think he acknowledged which is what I said, which is you got too close to the sun. You were doing a great job. You had to do your whole camera crew and he started believing his own press.
We're talking about Nome, or are we talking?
Speaking of Nome, last thing before we move to the broader sort of Minnesota situation and ICE situation. Yesterday, Sean, I thought your argument about why the White House should push out Nome now, because they have the Senate, and if they're going to get a new DHS secretary, better do it now than after they potentially lose the chamber. Good point on that. But yesterday, the president did say that no, he did not think she would be stepping down, and actually gave her a vote of confidence. Do you still think her job could be on the line?
So just so we're clear, my only point in making that was not necessarily today or tomorrow. I don't think that I said when we were talking about State of the Union that she's not going anywhere soon, is my guess. Okay. My only point is that if you're the president and you want to make a change, you better make it before November, when you have to then worry about potentially not having the future votes or having to deal on commitment to get your person across the finish line, right? So I don't think she's in any short-term danger, but I also think that it's the jobs work two ways. It's not that he's always pushing you out, but if you're doing a job and you're getting, pushed into the corner and your responsibilities are getting slowly attrited. I mean, you look at what Howard Lutnick has done at Commerce to take away a lot. I mean, like a lot of the stuff on visas and stuff, that's not in the purview of the Commerce Department. That's inherently a DHS function. And he's taken over that. Tom Homan's taken over a lot of the thing. At some point, she's going to basically become the de facto TSA administrator.
You mentioned Tom Homan. That's a good pivot for us because he met yesterday with Mayor Frey and Governor Walz. He said the meetings were a good starting point. He tweeted that we all agree we need to support our law enforcement officers and get criminals off the street. But we're seeing a little bit of a different tone from the Democrats. Frey also called the meeting productive. But he had more of an edge in his sort of summary of the discussion. He said that he called on the administration to end the Operation Metro Surge and said he told Homan Minneapolis does not and will not enforce immigration laws. Also, Walz has gone, I don't know which network this is, but there's a video of him circulating online from yesterday afternoon where he said Kristi Noem should go back to South Dakota, not have any dogs, in a reference to her story that she shot her dog one time, and just kind of ride things out. Dan, let's start with you. Like, can you still make a deal when you have Democrats sort of sticking it to they're kind of sticking it to the administration a little bit here. I guess they can do it a lot harder, but it's certainly not a super conciliatory tone.
And Trump put out a truth a few minutes ago, too, kind of warning Frey. Look, I think Democrats here need to be careful because there's three kind of players right now in Minneapolis on our side. There's Walz, there's Frey, and there's, frankly, Ilhan Omar, and, who was protested yesterday where somebody sprayed something, but she had a lot to say, as she has, about ICE. Walz, I think, has been a little more responsible. He said Kristi Noem should leave. Like, that's an easy layup right now. Even some Senate Republicans are saying that. But I think Frey is hot under the collar. He go back to the good murder or killing where he, was dropping F-bombs and was really kind of lost his cool. The party's got to get Frey under control because we cannot start saying, we're not going to work with you on criminals. We just can't. The polling is overwhelming on this. We're going to get to it here when we talk about Capitol Hill and some data that was being circulated last night amongst Democratic senators. But Frey's got to be really careful. And Walz has got to get him. And frankly, Amy Klobuchar, who I know she suspended her efforts for governor, but most people believe will ultimately go and run for governor, needs to call Jacob Frey into a room and say, cool it. You're going to work with ICE on some capacity. We are not pro-criminal.
Good. Well, this is the problem. Do we have that element?
Let's bring up do we have the Truth Social post from the president here? Here we go. Yes. He's saying that Jacob Frey just stated that Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws. This is after having a very good conversation with him. Could somebody in his inner sanctum please explain that this statement is in very serious violation of the law and that he is playing with fire?
This lets Trump now potentially try to get back on offense. Yes. I'm being reasonable. I'm compromising. I'm de-escalating. I'm making conciliatory moves. And you SOBs are just, thumbing your nose at the law. Dangerous.
This is exactly right. I mean, this is again where the ball is going to ping pong back. The American people might not like what they saw in Minneapolis, but they certainly want you to follow the law. To put out a statement as the mayor saying, I'm not going to follow federal law. I mean, do you know that's got to be one of the dumbest statements any politician's ever made, regardless of the legal reality of that, the supremacy clause. Think about what other federal laws there are that you are immediately saying, I'm not going to obey. And well, then I tell you what, here's what I think the president should do. And I mean this in honest to God, is say, you know what? I've tried to be the president of the United States. I didn't win Minneapolis. I didn't win Minnesota. I did it because I think it's the right thing to do. But it's obvious that the governor that you voted for and the mayor that you voted for don't want to uphold the law. So
the governor said he is.
Just hear me out. I think that at some point the president should just say this. I've tried. And it's clear that they don't, unlike all these other cities, they don't want to work with me. You're on your own. You, the people of Minneapolis, you're on your own. You've declared yourself a sanctuary city. Got it. We're not funding you. We're pulling out federal funding. We're pulling out our resources. You guys have it. Your 585 officers will now be responsible defending you. But I think this is, I would call their bluff if I were the president and just say, you know what? I tried. I get it. You don't like what I'm doing. You don't like how I'm doing it. So good luck to Mayor Fry and pull the hell out. Just get out.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, in my opinion, you need a lot more before you go there. Sean, he would look like a hothead. Right now, you got a little. And Walz is not there. Walz is agreeing with Trump. So that's the other part, which is the Democratic Party is divided on the ground right now.
Play this out for me for 1 second. So let's just take it down a notch. And the president says, hey, look, I spoke to these guys. I sent Tom Homan out there. We said, look, just let us go after the criminals. The mayor out there said, I will not enforce federal law. Okay. So I got to be honest with you. I don't know what to do. I've tried. You guys elected this guy. He doesn't want to work with me. That's fine. I'm out. So just play this out for 1 second. What's the response then of Democrats?
Bye-bye.
Yeah. I mean, I think, Sean, they'd be like, amen. I mean, that's the challenge. No. But I mean, right. Because you know what you're saying? All these Chicago, everyone would say,
oh, I don't know that that's true.
Yeah, they would.
I think when you walk around Washington, D.C. right now,
that depends where you walk around. I mean, we need to be honest about that.
What I'm telling you is that I've talked to enough people who different neighborhoods, not everywhere, admittedly, there is widespread agreement that it is a much safer city right now. And I think Mayor Bowser has played this pretty damn well, understanding that it's actually, we haven't had any problems in the DC. I mean, here's my point though. I think he should call his bluff. I think he should, and just make Democrats go, you don't want it there. Listen, here's the thing that's so ironic about this entire deal.
One statement from a mayor, and you just
a mayor, the mayor.
Come on. I think he'd look childish.
I mean, look, like maybe Tom Homan can get back in a room with him, and
they will. That's why. Look, he did what he did.
I mean, look, he
put out one truth.
It's to something I brought up earlier this week, which is I'm not certain that that both parties see it in their interest to de-escalate. Obviously, the administration.
Yeah, they do.
But you think so? Do you really think so, Dan? Because it's almost like this guy.
No, they do, and this is the perfect segue to. No, this is the perfect segue.
Let's go to the shutdown. Let's go to the shutdown.
Yeah, because
there's
two different conversations.
Okay, so we are 3 days out from a shutdown. Both Democrats and Republicans say they are optimistic for a deal, but it is still unclear what a deal looks like and exactly how it goes through. There is this new sort of polling memo that is making the rounds on Capitol Hill sent to Senate Democrats, suggesting that Democrats play hardball on the shutdown. But it also cautions them not to talk about abolishing ICE, to focus on reforming. And this is kind of what you talked about, Dan, yesterday, which is like, that is the smart play here. Don't go overboard, and sort of stick with the middle ground here, which is like the reforms, not getting rid of an agency altogether.
Yeah, I mean, look, so Adam Gettleson has the great, memo, and look, he says in there, half the Democratic caucus in their survey, or half of Democrats in their survey, want to defund ICE. And he warns that is to exactly what Sean said, which is the middle of this country is not against rounding up criminals. Like they're not kind of anti or pro-immigration, let's say, when it comes to some of this stuff. But they do believe that ICE is out of control. Like that is just a broadly held view of the American public. And so I think he's right, which is the party needs to play hardball. Republicans are sweating, offering excuses like, well, it's hard to get the House back there on recess, which is ridiculous, totally not true, takes 24 hours, they could all be back. They just don't want to do it because it's going to put Republicans in a bind. It's going to put the White House, they're going to have to use a lot of muscle. Trump would have to call House Republicans and say, you need to do this. Yeah. So I think Democrats are right to call for reforms. They are right to play hardball. They should not cave right now, but they need to be careful that the base, the loudest, angriest voices in the base don't take control of this?
Just a couple little things about that memo. So Adam Gentleson, who you mentioned, Dan, he's well regarded on Capitol Hill. He worked for Harry Reid for a long time, for those of you who haven't heard his name before. But the results of this,
and
again,
was Fetterman's chief of staff. Yep.
That's right, before he left and had a fallout with Fetterman. But this finds that 73% support, let's see, basically reforms against detaining U.S. citizens. 79% support sort of curbing ICE from entering people's homes without a warrant. And then 70%, according to this this polling memo, says that 70% support making agents use some sort of clearly identifying uniform, which, again, I just feel like Republicans are going to really push back on that.
No, that's not true.
You don't think so? But
I mean, Rachel, these are literally 70-30 issues.
Clearly identifying. I don't know. Name tags?
It's like a cop. So what's your
right?
badge?
I say officers do it.
5265.
Okay.
The military does it.
So it's not like a name tag per se.
No. So like instead of like saying Smith or Turrentine, you would say 516 or 249.
So then people can go look up who the person is.
No,
right?
No, that's not publicly available.
But you would be able to, if you had a complaint and you'd say, I was attacked by Officer 529, then they'd have the data. They'd have to investigate it, but you wouldn't be able to dox the officer.
Well, there's going to be real concern about doxing.
But that's what I'm saying. There's already talk about
there's a way to get around it.
I mean, it's about accountability. That's what it's about.
Where does this go, Sean? Like, at what point does the president pick up the phone and call Chuck Schumer? Because it seems like it's going to have to be the two of them.
No, I think Katie Britt's got, like, look, there's three big things that I think Republicans can agree on: the warrant procedure, the officer / agent identification aspect of this, and body camera. Yep. Those are probably and then some kind of enhanced training.
Yep.
Those are four things that most Republicans, and frankly, the administration, and I think to some extent even many agents, would be fine with. So those are gives that I think the administration could give. The Republicans in the Senate could give, and no one would feel like that was a massive thing. The Democrats could say we got a pound of flesh or half a pound of flesh or something, and that would be a win for them. So my view on this is that should be the contours of a deal. It should be on the sidelines outside of the actual appropriations process. There should be a vote. The administration should agree to it. She should put out what they call a SAP, a statement of administration policy, where they say we're on board with this, so that everybody can say we're getting this, like that there's no ambiguity as to what it is. But, it's funny. I just two things to take issue with. One, I get Dan's point. Yes, if I were a Democrat, I understand why they want to play hardball, but like I'd play hardball if I were Trump in Minneapolis, as I just said. I mean, go where your strength is. But second, like, here is the reality. I said this yesterday. I asked around again. The idea that if Senate Republicans, not even last night, never mind today is Wednesday, if they change any of the appropriations process, the government will close. House member cannot get back. Many of them still have travel issues. When you have Democrats refuse to cast votes for this. If you saw Emmer's problem last week, if you can't do this, the government will shut down. I mean,
Democrats would come back and vote for this. Oh, yes, they would.
They would vote for
but there is time, like there are procedural issues in the Senate where like everything takes, forever to tee up a procedural vote, then to eventually vote on the thing. And look, you have to have unanimous consent to be able to move something to the vote.
Then you know what? Have the CR for 24 hours. They pass the CR for 24 hours.
The House can waive the rule. I mean, I hate the fact that they do it, but the Rules Committee could put a rule which would waive the timing rule of when legislation, which again, personally, I think is ridiculous, but considering the circumstances, they could do it. But travel-wise, you cannot get them all back here by Friday night. It's just
what? What are they walking or taking horse and buggy?
Is not.
Everywhere is not New York City with a doorman and people cleaning your streets. There's a lot of places here in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia that people still can't get out. So the idea, like, I'm sorry, go down.
I'm sorry. In the next 48 hours, they could get back here if they wanted to.
I know a lot of people are talking about the House, but like you have to have unanimous consent to move like everything in the Senate. Like
you guys are getting so into process. Listen to yourself.
No, you're not, because you say that they should play hardball and do it. And it's like, you know what? We should just build a house tomorrow afternoon. I mean, now you're getting into the process. I mean, like the permitting and the weather and the building supplies.
Okay.
That's actually how it has to work. So if you're going to tell them to play hardball.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So
this is hilarious.
Look, we know that Democrats are still saying they want these reforms in appropriations. Like it sounds like we can see the outline of a potential deal right here. Sean outlined it right there. But the question is the how. And Democrats want this in appropriations legislation. They're sticking to that. But Dan, if they do want that, the government will shut down this weekend, at least for a while.
Here's the thing. Call the House back, okay, and say, we will pass the appropriations bill in the Senate, but the House Friday night is going to pass an amendment, so it's separate now, on just these reforms. They could all get back. They could tee up the vote for Saturday morning if they had to. So you show us that you're serious and then bring it over and we'll vote for the two. End of discussion.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on this.
I still like my idea better.
We don't want to vote. Come on. Don't make us do the hard thing.
Let's talk about the president's sort of affordability pitch here. So we had this big speech or visit to Iowa yesterday where he talked about affordability issues, obviously overshadowed by the Minnesota situation. Again, they're trying today with the Trump accounts. But it sounds like they're going to have a similar challenge with the Trump account, Sean, because there's new polling from a place called Public First Polling that finds that 57% of Americans have never heard of the Trump accounts, and only 14% have heard of it and can actually tell you what it is. So again, like Sean, what can they do better to cut through this noise and get that out there?
I think it's like the big, beautiful bill. I said this last night after the speech in Iowa, that it's a good speech. It should have been given 5 months ago. Like this is when you want, look, I watched last night, News Nation was the only major outlet that carried that speech last night.
Well, Fox had technical issues and had to cut away just because I was watching Fox. Yeah,
fair enough. But my point is, you can't give a speech and then expect people to see it, right? It has to be constantly pound away, pound, 365, 24/7. The president did a fantastic job during the campaign of reaching out to podcast, independent media, content creators. And it's also just not one event. I think the Treasury event today is good. You're bringing in Nicki Minaj and Cheryl Hines and adding, an aspect of things. There's a panel that has Caroline Levitt and Isabel Brown, both young moms that can talk about the impact that this will have on their ability to save for children. But it has to be like, they need to be doing 20 events a week. This is a great example of something that we can be talking about for young families, for the next generation of Americans, to help give them a nest egg to grow. And so I think it's a great idea. And also the public-private partnership of this. This is fantastic. Michael Dell's there. But you can't just do an event and go, okay, box checked. They need to be out there saying to every member of Congress to go do 3 Trump account events, send out 5 posts, but this idea that somehow you do an event, check the box and move on. The president last night, when he was bringing up people, there was a young woman that, they owned a restaurant and she was talking about the no tax on tips or whatever. Somebody else came up on stage. Those are great real life stories about the impact that his policies are having. Do more. More. And that's
well, and I think what was interesting was, he did multiple things in Iowa. He walked around the diner, he talked to Will Cain, and then he did the speech. And look, what I thought was fascinating was, one, Minnesota kept coming up, as you would imagine, right? And Trump was kind of, trying to be somewhat empathetic, trying to show that he had the seriousness of the situation and move on. But the other part of it was, okay, he might have had some good points on when he talked from the stage about the economy. But I mean, the reality is he does not do empathy well. He does strength and he does winning. And he said, 2 things. One, in the diner into Will Cain, he talked about how great the tariffs were. And Will Cain kind of gently brought up, like, there are a lot of people in Iowa who are struggling because of the tariffs. And there were stories all over the local Iowa press, from the soybean community to the farming community, talking about the pain that the tariffs are causing. And he just like blew past it and said, aren't the tariffs great to everyone? The second was he again got on a stage and said, we've defeated the inflation, and like basically mocked affordability. And I just, he cannot bring himself to say there's more work to be done and I feel your pain. Everything is dominance and winning and it's easy and I got it and I did it for you. Just give it a little bit and it's going to kick in. And I think once people believe you don't understand me, you don't understand my problems, you lose their trust. And he is getting dangerously close to that point where, again, forget MAGA. I keep saying it, you're not big enough to win general elections on the big stage. You'll win House races in red districts. But if you are going to win swing voters, which we have to win, or you're going to win, telling people there's nothing to see here is a disaster. It's a disaster.
I will say that one of the things that I thought he did really well was address the ag community out there. He talked about E15, which as a boater, I hate, for the record, it destroys maritime engines. I hate year-round E15.
It's ethanol for those who are wondering.
Yeah, and it also drives up corn prices. I mean, I will give him a ton of political points for this. He kept his promise to the people of Iowa, but it's such a horrible policy idea. Therefore, I can never run for president. But I will say he talked a lot about what he's done for farmers, the amount of money that they've really provided to the ag community, what he's doing to provide year-round. Thune put out a statement like this is a big thing, not just in Iowa, but for the entire Midwest. So I think he did a really good job of also addressing concerns for the ag community itself and reminding people that he delivered for them.
But here's the problem with that. Everything you just said is true, but the farmers are saying in formal surveys on economics and in surveys on politics, we are suffering because of the tariffs. And so when you say, isn't it great everything I did for you and you guys are doing fantastic, even in that diner, some of the faces were pained when he was talking about the tariffs. They didn't want to be rude and criticize him. But Sean, he looks totally disconnected from reality, making those statements in Iowa. I'm sorry. I mean,
maybe it's
telling farmers everything is great.
Maybe it's a good thing for them that people were talking about Minnesota and not this then. Okay, we got to move on, guys. We still have a whole nother topic at 9:18 right now. So let's talk midterms. Bad news for Democrats on redistricting. A state judge in Virginia blocked the state's Democratic-led legislature from drawing these new maps that were supposed to give them 4 or 5 potentially.
Well, it could go either 9-2 or I mean,
9-1 or 10.
9-1-8-2. So you'd have two sort of Western, Central, South districts, so Morgan Griffith's district, Ben Klein's district, or a wipeout. Okay. But it's not just that if you read the court's opinion, and this is I said this at the time, like it's a complete and utter violation of the Constitution and what they did, and that's why I actually feel like there'll be a huge still resistance effort on the Republican side to stop the referendum or anything else going on. But the why in that court opinion is what mattered. How the judge literally goes through and cites when they called a special election, they did not cite this as a reason for the special election. Voting had begun in Virginia. The way the Constitution works in Virginia is it says that you have to have two sessions of the General Assembly where it's brought up in an intervening election. And the court is basically saying, you guys, when you held a special election, did not cite this as the reason for going into session. Voting had begun. Therefore, you can't count that as the first. So that's a huge timeout, a huge problem, and a big win.
Dan, how are they going to get around this? They're going to appeal it. It sounds like. Dems.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to try to predict what the law will say, but I mean, look, I think they'll keep trying. They're trying in Maryland. You know, look, it's like every state. Some states have had setbacks for the Republicans, some for Democrats.
But this was a big one. This was supposed to be a number of seats, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, look, it is
counter what we're expecting in Florida, which was what another 4 or 5 seats for Republicans down there, right? And this was supposed to be a big.
Yeah, and Republicans have struggled a little bit in Florida. Look, this would have been the cherry on the top for Democrats. I mean, I think if you go back to when this started with Texas and the freak out about, okay, oh my God, they've got all these states that they're going to now roll up with Missouri and Ohio and Indiana. And they just looked around the country and thought, oh my God, we've got to meet fire with fire. They met fire with fire. And, Gavin Newsom, thank you very much. And so, Republicans will net 3 or 4 seats, I think, in aggregate from this whole entire exercise. I don't think it'll be enough today. We would still win the House back, but I'm still watching the Supreme Court because that's the big one.
Right, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I will tell you, I had a conversation with Richard Hudson, the NRCC chairman. He was a little sour on how many states could go post a Supreme Court hearing. So the nice thing about the Virginia thing is that was at least a net 3, if not 4, for Democrats if they got their plan through. And when you're playing on the margins, that would have been a big deal. And so same thing, I think for us, not the Voting Rights Act, the problem is that when it gets, reformed, it will, I don't know that it'll have that. I mean, Louisiana, definitely, obviously, because that's where the case is based, but there's not going to be that much of a net, I don't think, right now. And so for that reason, blunting a potential 3 to 4 seat additional pickup of Dems in Virginia, actually, I think could be a game changer.
We'll see if it holds or if they can overturn it. Just very quickly, AIPAC sending shockwaves through the Democratic political circles here in DC and in New Jersey, dropping $1.5 million to try to defeat former Congressman Tom Malinowski, who's running in that special to take over the seat of now Governor Mikey Sherrill. Dan, that's a lot of money. They used to support him. Now they don't because he wants to condition aid to Israel. How does the rest of the party see this? Do they I mean, a lot of Democrats are starting to say they want to condition.
Yeah, I mean, that's
right. Is this a warning that backs them off? And will this matter? Because the election is next week.
That's the question. If Malinowski wins, AIPAC's in trouble. You swing for somebody and you miss, it's a problem because you can't spend $1.5 million against every Democrat out there. So I think people are watching. There have been some races recently. It was with Cori Bush in Missouri and the race here in New York City where AIPAC went very heavy and won. They pulled candidates over the finish line. They took out some of the loudest anti-Israel voices in the party. That was a couple years ago. The politics are different. Sean and I have talked about this for over a year. Israel's political domestic standing in the United States right now is at a very perilous spot, not just with Democrats, but with the kind of young Republicans. They need a new plan. And that is someone who's sympathetic to Israel. You need a new plan in the United States. The old politics are not going to work anymore.
Well, that's 100% right. I mean, I brought this up with Prime Minister Netanyahu that this is something that this is the trade issue of today. Back in the day, trade was just sort of everybody, even Democrats, Republicans would be like, oh, there's a trade deal. Sure, we're for it. And it's slowly attrited. And now every trade thing is a fight. Israel's got to recognize that the same old playbook isn't just going to be like, hey, you're our greatest friend in the Middle East is going to hold. Yep. They've got to reassert itself, really get in there. And I think they've done some good work reaching out to content creators and trying to redefine the way that they reach out to America, but they need to double down and do a lot more.
We'll be watching. Let's do some questions. Okay. Will the GOP wisen up and eliminate the filibuster, or will they just wait and complain about it once the Democrats do it? It being probably a shutdown. They are not going to eliminate the filibuster.
Nope. I think this person is asking about. I think the implication is that Democrats will eliminate the filibuster, which is the belief on the right. Yeah.
And I think that's right, but I just don't think it's hard for me to see Thune allowing this. I mean, I know that there are some Senate Republicans who support it. I know the president is all on board, MAGA is all on board, but they have resisted for years and years and years. It's just hard for me to see them doing that now. Sean, do you disagree?
No, and I get the questioner here, which is we're going to sit around and talk about the institution and protecting the minority. And I get that. I actually, in principle, support this idea. I think it gives the minority some rights in a body to help do this. The Republicans probably have benefited from it more historically than Democrats, but someone needs to open their eyes and say, the train's coming down the track, whether you guys want to be the ones to do it or be on the other side of it, the Democrats will do it. Like every single one of them voted to do it except 2, and the 2 that didn't vote for it are gone. So the new people, like the 2 things that I think are important are, 1, we need the political reality to understand that's happening if we lose the Senate. Number 2 is, I don't know that there's a clear agenda that if they did do it, what does that look like? Are you going to pass healthcare reform? Are you going to pass more taxes? We can't get consensus on
anything,
on reconciliation. So I don't know that there's consensus on what it's like. We should buy a car, but we have nowhere to go. So I think that's the bigger problem. There's a lack of leadership right now.
Totally agree with Sean. I do think the filibuster's days are numbered. Whoever does it, you know, I'm not sure, but and I agree. It should be gone. I mean, let's be candid. It was designed to help the South protect segregation. I mean, that's what it was about. You forget all this other happy talk. That is why they created it. It was not in the Constitution. Its time has come and gone. And in my opinion, go ahead and pass legislation. This idea that like the Senate will stop everything, I think the country would rather, who's ever in the majority, if one party controls it, pass legislation. If the legislation stinks, vote him out of office. Like, move.
As somebody who covered the Hill for a long time, I disagree with you, Dan, but we don't have to get into the filibuster fight today. Let's bring in another question. Okay. Are any of the 3 of you spending any time looking into the Signal chat business? This must be referring to the Minnesota Signal chat of organizing protesters, following where the agents are, et cetera. Go ahead, Sean.
I have, absolutely. There's a guy named Cam who's been at the forefront of this. I follow his account. I've reposted some of the stuff. But even he put the question the other day that initially there were reports that the lieutenant governor could be one of the people. I think the name was Fran. And he's calling into question whether that's the right person now. So there's a difference between watching it. And this is what sometimes I get asked this all the time between this show and the evening show. I watch a lot of these issues, but what, there's rabbit holes you can go down, but even the guy that's leading the account is questioning the veracity of some of the questions about whom is who with respect to the screen names. So am I watching it? Absolutely. The second thing I would argue is this: organizing a Signal chat, even if it's paid for, whatever, is not illegal. I mean, like, I guess, yes, it's interesting to know. I personally, by the way, I've been reading Peter Schweitzer's latest book. Like, there's a lot of this stuff that I find fascinating. There's a difference between somehow something nefarious and illegal going on and people organizing using their constitutional rights on the First Amendment to organize and assemble. So I guess the question I would ask back to Chris here is, yes, I'm watching it. I've been fascinated by it in a lot of stuff, but there's also a question of, like, what aspect of it? Is it just, are you asking about the legality of it, who might be on it, what they're saying? But yeah, I'm fascinated by who's on it, what they're trying to do. And I do have a bunch of questions, but I think right now it is speculative, at least what I'm seeing.
I find it so fascinating that the right is trying to convince itself that all of this opposition is paid like Soros people. It's Democrats have made this mistake in the past when they just say, oh, it's all the Koch brothers, or oh, it's all like a Steve Bannon organized cabal. Like, yes, there is always a sense of, like, there are a lot of entities on the right and the left that organize all day to support or oppose policy. I mean, just Washington is full of it. There's a whole cottage industry of it. But you are to belittle and say that there is not genuine organic activity and outrage about what is happening with ICE is a huge political mistake for Republicans. Huge.
I would like to get credit someday for organizing a cabal. Not a group. I want a cabal.
Okay. All right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I hear you.
A large group, but I think there's something very unique about organizing a cabal.
Yeah. A little red wine with the cabal. It's great.
Okay, let's do one more question. Okay, question for Dan. Is Spanberger a moderate?
Man, I speaking of like watching kind of the fascinating thing, I am fascinated with the way the right is so attempting to paint Spanberger as this out of control liberal. Usually when you do that, it's because you fear somebody. But the fact that like members of the Virginia legislature will propose something and they'll be like, Spanberger is all about this. And it's like, no, somebody proposed a crazy, idea and she hasn't even commented on it. Look, time will tell. The fact that out of the gate, she's doing some stuff to appease the base, newsflash, everybody does it. So do Republicans, right? I mean, Youngkin did the same thing when he first got in office. So look, we'll see. She's going to put a budget together. She's going to have to move legislation. We'll see.
As somebody who covered her, can I just say, I feel like her politics have definitely changed. I mean, like she used to lead the charge in the House. She would be on the calls yelling at other progressives that their ideas were stupid. And now, and maybe, Dan is right. Like, she's become governor. So she feels like she's got to throw some chips into the,
of course she does.
The progressives. But like on the campaign trail, one of the things that really like made me pause was like her refusal to at all weigh in on transgender individuals in, sports, minors when it comes to transgender stuff, when it comes to minors. I mean, like I live in an area of Virginia where that is like a big thing, where you have like the schools pushing back on the federal government. And then you have parents who have concerns too. So like the fact that she wouldn't weigh in on that at all was surprising to me. And so I feel like she's certainly less moderate than she used to be.
Well, but don't confuse not weighing in with supporting.
Well, show a sign. What's your position?
Well, I mean, look, but so you're upset that she didn't take a position, right? There's another political strategy that says, hey, look, on certain issues, there's no upside to taking a position. That may be the wrong strategy.
For sure. And that was the one.
Right. So, I mean, and look, by the way, the DSCC and the DCCC are counseling candidates. Don't take the culture warrior bait, right? Now, Kamala Harris didn't respond, and that was a huge mistake, right? So victory has 1,000 fathers, defeats a lonely orphan. I mean,
perhaps if this election were the year before, she would have had a different strategy.
Correct.
Yeah. Totally. Can I just say, look, I don't even think it's a debatable point. She is not a moderate. Her first week in office has been abysmal. I mean, she is, but here's what I'll give you, Dan. I give her respect. Like Glenn Youngkin was a nice man and he's a smart man. He's a very adept businessman, but he lost everything in Virginia. I mean, playing nicey nice. There's not a single, and politically it was all crapped out the way. I mean, like what happened to Virginia under his watch politically was a disaster. What happened under his watch policy wise, not much. So I give her credit. I will say this. She came in and said, I got 4 years as governor. I'm going to put my stamp on that place and we're going to do all this stuff. Well, I will say that, I mean, like, but going after deliveries at 4.3%, raising the tax rate, if you're going to campaign on affordability and every one of your proposals is how you're going to make Virginia more expensive and tax the hell out of us, like, look, she may walk out of here as a progressive champion, but the idea that anybody is even thinking about calling her anything that rhymes with moderate is ridiculous.
Well, the other one, just very quickly, her Jay Jones response. I mean, again, the Spanberger I know would have said those kind of comments, saying a political opponent should be shot dead and that their kids should die in their arms. That would have been a Spanberger thing where she said, stop. No, you have no business being.
Well, look,
she continued to support the guy.
Well, but I get the policy, and I said it at the time.
Right.
The Black community in Virginia is huge. She did not want to go against the Black community. And by the way, Rachel, you say it was a mistake. He and she won. So it's just like Republicans who would have said, oh, on J6, you guys all should have said how horrible it was. Guess what? Shutting your mouth and saluting Trump helped them win. So everyone can talk about how you should and should not. We all wish people had more.
Right. The politics of the moment worked, but the pendulum does swing. And the question was, is she a moderate? And so,
right. Well, but you don't know yet. I mean, that's the thing. You don't, Sean, it's 1 weekend. Come on.
And tell me, first of all, literally, there isn't one thing that she,
Dan, by any means,
she hasn't done. I mean, she showed her colors. And again, I will give her respect for saying, hey, look, I got 4 years. Okay, so if you're 1 week in and your entire thing is about being a moderate, why wouldn't you at least start faking it?
No, you never do. Sean, you and I both know. You start by paying people back, and then you go to your agenda. It's what everybody does.
And then you piss off the left or something.
It's why the Mexico policy is usually the first thing signed or overturned.
We will be. I'm sure we'll talk a lot about her, since she's a governor for both Sean and I here in Virginia. But we are out of time right now. 9:35. Anything you want to flag on your show, Sean, before we jump real quick?
Well, we're going to talk a lot about the Senate today. Senator Ron Johnson's coming up tonight at 6. We're going to ask him what this way forward is, what they're willing to deal on. This was his committee, Homeland. So what is he willing to do?
All right, cool. We will tune in tomorrow. See you guys all tomorrow at 8:30. We'll be back bright and early.
Thanks, guys.